Higher Universe Pictures.
Welcome to the Paranormal Phenomena podcast with Brandon Reines and Elizabeth Chamberlain.
I'm Brandon Reines.
And I'm Elizabeth Chamberlain.
Welcome to the Paranormal Phenomena podcast, where we talk about ghosts, aliens, and the unexplained. Welcome to episode 4 of the Paranormal Phenomena podcast. This week we continue our discussion with actor Gin Fedetov about his experiences with UFOs.
If you like our podcast, be sure to subscribe. And we'd love it if you could like, share, and comment on our show. Those likes go a long way in helping us reach a wider audience, and we really appreciate that.
Okay, if we want to get on, I know you have some other interesting stories. Which one do you think would be the best one to talk to you about next?
So to be honest, the things that I feel that was not just in my head, it's basically collective experiences. So there is another cool one. This is Mexico. I am 17, almost finished high school, and a whole bus of people, young guys and girls, went out to a Taekwondo tournament. Now we were in a pretty crappy bus with no curtain. We stayed overnight, and on our way back, the bus broke down. We're waiting for people to come pick us up. The bus was not going to make it out. It's the middle of the night, the middle of nowhere. So we pulled off of the highway. It's not too cold. We're staying in the bus to, keep warm. And we're just chatting. There's nothing else to do. We've been there for hours. Hopefully our rides will get there soon. And this is a bus full of 16, 17, 18-year-old high schoolers, our Taekwondo trainer, the high school's physician, the bus driver. So 3 adults and a bunch of youngsters just chatting away. And then in the sky, like a tiny dot starts moving. Nobody notices. The dot gets closer and fairly quickly. So we're like, oh, an airplane, weird. This dot gets pretty close. And again, it's just white, no color, no yellow, no reds, no nothing. Zero sound, but now we're seeing a bit of a shape, and it's an oval shape. And it's stationary, and it's fairly big, not an airplane. All of us start, getting out. We start looking at it. Because this was a Taekwondo tournament, our coach brought a video camera. We had some instant photo cameras as well. We start taking pictures, and we're standing there for 15 minutes while this thing is stationary, not above us, just in the distance. We recently had a full moon, and it was probably half of the size of that full moon. It was incredible. We're chatting about it, we're pointing at it, taking pictures, video, whatever. And, it was a dot. It approached us, and it was super quick, very close. In less than a blink, back to a dot and gone. Now, collective experience, recorded, pictures, everything.
Yeah, there's no denying that happened. Do you have those pictures or videos still? Like, are they on YouTube, or is it just...
I haven't looked because there are so many things that I've experienced. I didn't take any, but I probably could find some.
Well, I think that'd be a cool update for the show if we could get hold of those, because I want to see what that looks like.
Mexico is one of those very special places where UFO sightings are fairly common.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It seems like I hear stuff. It's always in Mexico. I wonder why that is.
A lot of explanations about being a highly volcanic area and UFOs going into the depths of volcanoes. Hey, I don't particularly have an explanation as to why Mexico, but I do have dozens of collective experience stories and a few of my own without, the collective experience. Again, what I experienced on my own and how I perceive it, I like to put it aside because I want to make sure that I am not giving an inaccurate picture. And I don't want to just say, oh, I saw this. This is just my word. No, collective experiences, I think they're special because you have a lot of people witnessing something extremely similar, hopefully documenting it, or at least be able to provide witness accounts. And so that's why this story really pops up to me, because there was, I mean, a full bus of people. We were maybe 25 plus the 3 adults. It was very unique. No sound, no heat, just a very bright light that moved extremely close very quickly and basically moved extremely far just as quick. It was just very unique. And yes, it was scary for a variety of reasons. Not only because we're in the middle of nowhere, kind of getting cold, hungry, been there for a few hours. And this is Mexico, so it wasn't super safe. But also, we didn't know what this was at all.
What do you think it was? Like, do you think UFOs are, like, do you think they're from other planets, or what is your explanation for them?
Oof, man, you're asking somebody that has been reading about the subject for the longest time. The most plausible explanation, in the one I would like to say, is any unidentified flying object. If you are much more educated about different aircraft, you can actually identify. The ones that you cannot, I would like to believe that they are just future humans visiting the past.
Oh,
Now, and
okay.
so the reason why I don't want to chalk it out to extraterrestrial life, it's very simple. They would have made public contact a long time ago. You cannot just visit, show aircraft, then just disappear. It makes no
Bye.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there was a rule of no interference, no contact, then they just would not be visible, right? On the other hand, if you have to think about humans visiting from the future, or maybe the past, where that technology has been forgotten due to something, is they're not making contact, direct contact, because they don't want to affect events, to break out any temporal laws or temporal rules. And by the way, the ideas of, time and space that we have, with proper technology, I'm sure there will be slightly more expanded. So my theory, human visitors from somewhere either way back in the past or way in the future. And I mean like millennia in the future or in the past.
Yeah, I've heard that theory before. I think it was the Rendlesham Forest incident in the UK, and I remember just kind of reading about that, and some of the military guys that investigated that had kind of put forth the opinion that it's not aliens; they're just people from future or something. It was actually humans. So yeah, that's my personal opinion, I think there probably are alien races out there somewhere. I don't really think they've been to Earth. I have a hard time believing that. I'm not completely closed off to that idea. So I think it's still hard to believe that they're people from the future, because time travel at this point something we only see in movies. We don't have it. So, but it's not impossible to imagine that thousands of years from now they'll figure out how to do it. So I think that's a more plausible idea than alien aircraft.
Hey, if you were a tourist, and somebody would give you an idea, hey, guys, we have a weekly special. You could go to the seventh moon of Jupiter, visit some desolate area, or you can travel 50,000 years in the past. Where would you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It just seemed, if it is people from another time, why wouldn't they interact with us? Maybe they can't, or they're just unwilling to.
Can't, shouldn't. The theory of the butterfly effect, you affect something tiny, which could have ripple effects that are astronomical and uncalculable. But the other thing is, it would be an extremely scary experience. Think of somebody who is pre-agricultural, somebody that has language, lives in a society, knows fire, knows hunting, knows family, but doesn't know anything else about being even settled in one place. Somebody nomadic. Okay. And then somebody like yourself visits them. Can you imagine the level of trauma they will experience? How much you will mess up their life forever?
But it doesn't necessarily mean it would be in a negative way.
Absolutely, but it still would be an experience that would carry over through generations.
Yeah.
There will be, you could be venerated as a god. You could be seen as a devil. Hey, there's a fantastic movie that kind of explores just the tiny difference. I don't remember the name of the movie. It's a comedy where somebody from an airplane drops a Coca-Cola bottle and
Oh
it
yeah,
falls
yeah.
close to a tribe that hasn't really encountered somebody that would be flying or would have a Coke bottle, and how much that Coke bottle affects their entire society. So you would have exactly an unrecognizable effect of a visitor from 10,000 years in the future on, pre-agricultural society. I think that if you have somebody from 50,000 years in the future visiting somebody today, it would create such level of panic, worship, economic effects, social effects, that just that one interaction could change the future drastically. So yeah, avoidance shouldn't would be a good explanation.
But I guess the question is, if they have the technology to travel back in time, don't they have the technology to do it without being seen? Because they're kind of scaring people by flying around. People see it. They don't know what it is. We have to get like military jets to go chase these things. Everyone, they're kind of disturbing things to begin with. You think it'd be smart to just, stay out of sight and stay invisible. Like they have to have cloaking technology or something. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yes, but the slight sightings, this is the funny part. I think very recently, just this year, the United States government and the US Air Force has said, we have footage of stuff, we don't know what it is. And they showed it. Literally, we had extremely high level military people from all across the world admitting to the fact that there has been meetings with extraterrestrial ambassadors and sightings of stuff that is definitely not military and could not physically fly in this way. We have completely said, sure, cool. How does that affect my Big Mac meal? You know what I mean? So I think just a sighting of something has a speculative effect. Knowledge of something has a much more
Yeah.
impactful, interaction. So the fact that, hey, you're being visited, sure, why not? Hey, maybe we're just seeing a glimpse of somebody taking a flash picture. I don't know. From the future, taking a picture. It's like, hey, Dave, your super digital camera doesn't illuminate this. 1 second. 3D imaging takes some light to capture. But at the end of the day, think of the huge implications of knowing. Not just speculating, but knowing. There is something that we are yet to explain today.
I think I would like to think that the human race could adjust fairly quickly. But if some aliens basically landed on Earth, announced their existence, it became common knowledge, I think it would create, there's already a distrust of people from other countries and all that kind of thing. I think it would stir up a lot. There'd be a lot of hatred for these weird aliens. Some people would want to welcome them in open arms. Other people would hate them and try to kill them. And it would just lead to decades of arguments and war and that kind of thing. I don't think we would just, let them settle here. And after hundreds of years, a lot of people still have problems with foreigners from other countries settling. So I think if people came from another planet, there'd be so much hatred for them that maybe the human race is not ready at this point to accept that. It might take another few hundred years and then we will, but it's interesting to think about. But yeah, I still can't help but thinking that if these are people from the future or extraterrestrials, and this is what they were thinking, they were doing this to protect us, I think they would be much more secretive about it instead of kind of hinting at it. I don't know, it just seems like we're missing a piece of the picture here.
Mm-hmm.
totally fair. The out of sight, out of mind is a great concept, but because there's so many recorded events, this is, I mean, I'm not talking about photography. I'm talking about Renaissance paintings with mass UFO sighting,
Mhm.
records in religious texts, in poems, in books from dating. Hey, it forget about paper. Stuff that is, chiseled in stone, man. Um, you can chalk it out to meteorological phenomena, but all of the interactions, all of the stuff that is definitely not a meteorological phenomena, leads you to believe and leads you to understand that there are things, phenomena, like the light I experienced and many of my friends experienced, that are simply beyond our understanding. And regardless of how much fun it is to speculate what it is, we have no idea. Not even the closest clue.
and and honestly, I think that's probably the best answer.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in that kind of stuff, but I don't want to be so close-minded that I refuse to believe. And I sometimes you just have to admit it's probably something, I just don't know what it is. It's just something that we as a people are not intelligent enough yet to understand, or we just haven't discovered. One day we will, and maybe it'll make complete sense. But at this point,
Mhm.
I'm not going to say it's aliens. I'm not going to say it's not real. It's your imagination. I'm going to say it's something that we just can't explain. And one day maybe we will. I think a lot of the paranormal, even some of the other things we've talked about on the show, are the same way. It's like I don't know what to think of it. I've never witnessed a UFO myself ever,
Mhm.
um, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. I haven't been actually been looking for it. I had a roommate once that was always seeing them all the time. I'd hang out with them. I'd never see anything. So it's really hard to explain, but it's like you were saying, it's been a phenomenon. It's been around as long as the human race has been around. So obviously there's something to it. People can't consistently see things that aren't there. So there's something to it that I would hope in my lifetime we get an explanation, because I honestly want to know. I want to settle this once and for all, whether like what causes this kind of phenomena, because it's so interesting, and it's something we need to know.
I agree. Elizabeth, have you seen a UFO before?
I have never seen a UFO before. No, I've seen lots of things in the sky, but I've always known what they are.
See, that is the odd thing to me. For somebody who has experienced so many different unexplained, and if you want to label it a UFO event, um, it's very strange for me to encounter people that have not had similar experiences or have not seen a UFO. And it's a very Canadian thing. It's strange. I lived in the Ukraine, I lived in Mexico, I lived in the United States. And it was very difficult and very rare to actually encounter somebody with whom I would feel comfortable talking about UFOs to begin with. But they would say, yeah, I never seen one. So for me, you guys are the unusual case.
Yeah, and that's on. I think it was our first episode that we discussed that, how like I've never experienced anything paranormal, but there's people that experience it a lot,
hmm
and but it can't. Part of the rationale could be it comes down to the individual person. But if you saw this thing along with a whole taekwondo team and several adults, obviously it's not just the person, because everyone saw it.
Yeah.
If I had been there, I would have seen it too.
Right.
I just wasn't there. So um, yeah, that's like I guess a whole nother topic of conversation. But I remember even one time when I lived in Bonnyville, we lived near the Cold Lake Air Force Base, and we were at a bar one time talking to some guy. I can't remember if he was in the Air Force or he worked on the base, but he said that we kind of asked him like, do you guys ever have to like chase UFOs? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, it's happened before. He's like, yeah, once in a while if there's something in the sky that's not supposed to be there, like over a military, like an Air Force base, like they can't ignore it. They have to go see what it is.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I've heard stories, they chase something and it would just be so fast that it would just vanish. So these aren't just stories. I mean, there's footage of it there. I mean, you were saying earlier, even the U.S. military, I think it was the Navy, just in the last year released footage and stuff of like there's these things that we don't know what they are. They don't belong to us. They don't, as far as they know, don't belong to any other country. So it's nice that they're being open about it, but they're still not offering any explanation.
Yeah, and hey, providing an explanation is providing some kind of saying, yeah, we understand what this is and how it works. That's a lot of hubris.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But to be honest, guys, once you have your experience, when your mind, your very skeptical and scientific mind, which I feel I have. I think I question everything from what I'm having for breakfast to whatever I'm being told by my government. For a very skeptical mind, once you experience something that your mind and your scientific understanding and your research is completely in awe, and you're starting to understand, hey, this was an experience. This is not something I saw, something I felt. This was an encompassing thing.
Mm-hmm.
It switches something in your being that you're perhaps more receptive to it. It's like playing yellow punch buggy. You don't really care how many yellow punch buggies out there, but once you start playing, your eyes are looking for
You
it
see
at
them
all times.
everywhere, yeah.
Exactly. But it's
Yeah.
a feeling. It's an emotional connection with something. I don't know.
I think you're right. If I even now, since I've never seen anything, I can always kind of explain it away. Until it happens to you, you can always. It's like that's something happens to other people. It doesn't affect me. If it ever happened, if I saw something like that I couldn't explain, it would. I don't know. I don't think it would affect me that much. But there's no going back. I can never go back to my previous life of having never experienced it. If anyone asks me, I gotta say, yeah, I saw this thing. I don't know what it was. Honestly, nowadays I could probably chalk it all up to drones. I mean, drones are everywhere, but if it was something, I'm like, it wasn't a drone. I don't know what it was, and it's like, damn, man, I just saw a UFO, you know. But I almost want to. I want to. I feel like I'm excluded from this club. You know, it's like I'm interested in the paranormal, and everyone else is seeing this cool stuff, and I just, you know, stare at the sky and I don't see anything but clouds. But
you know what they say, out of 50 friends, at least one or two are aliens. You just don't know it yet.
Actually, yeah, I had a professor tell me that once. I was like, we were talking about aliens and we were making jokes or something, and then I was like, oh, haha, like I think that too. And then he's like, well, that's because you have a lot of alien DNA in you. And he just said it like completely straight faced, and I was like, sir, what? I was like, excuse me? Some people just like, it's just like second nature to them. They're so in the, you know, in the genre of that's just what they think.
yeah, I couldn't imagine walking around assuming that 1 in 50 people were aliens. I'd be afraid to leave the house.
Hey, they are friendly. They are great cooks, and most of the time they're not argumentative.
Yeah,
there you go.
So if that's true, that means that on Hotbox there was like 1 or 2 aliens involved in that project.
Apparently
Everybody
I'm one
knows
of them,
it's Chris
so.
Schuler.
Schuler, yeah.
Of course.
He's on the list of suspects. Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah, he'd be my first pick too.
See, it's the thought of, well, it's the most obvious choice, but no, because it's the obvious, it wouldn't be. But they would be thinking that because you think it's not the most obvious choice, then it will be the most obvious choice. Yeah, I miss that guy. I have never. So after driving from Hotbox, we drove in a terrible blizzard. Bad idea. Chris was driving. I was super tired. It was a 3-hour drive, maybe 4, because we were driving 65 at a certain point on a highway that's usually 130, because everybody drives like crazy, including myself. I cannot believe that we didn't speak about UFOs or anything supernatural. What happened is I fell asleep, and Chris was driving white knuckle, you know, ensuring that neither of us died. And the same Elvis hits was playing for 3.5 hours. And I asked him to wake me up by the time we hit Red Deer, and he didn't. Or maybe he tried and I just didn't wake up. Anyway, where I'm going with that is as that dude, I'm sure that from all of his very cool experiences, he probably had at least one or two very unexplainable, um, possible unidentified flying object encounters.
We're gonna have to have him on the show then.
Yeah,
Talk to him.
seems like we found our next guest, Brandon.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He has cool stories about everything, man. And the thing is, he has a very cool perspective on things. I know my explanations on things are somewhat, I guess, modest and conservative. He is more out there. So
Well, we might have a lot of out there people on the show, depending on what kind of guests we get. We're only in our third episode, and I'm not sure where we're going to go from here. But I know there's all sorts of segments of the paranormal. They're downright insane, and I want to give them the time of day as much as we do to the more kind of common things like UFOs that are kind of known to more people. But there's a lot of crazy theories out there and stuff, and some of them they, have some credence to them possibly, or at least some of these experts think they do. So, so I'm willing to kind of hear what anyone has to say about it.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm glad that you have opinions on it too. A lot of people have witnessed things and they don't know. They, other than describing what they saw, they really don't have like an educated or a well thought out opinion about it. So I'm glad that you kind of have thoughts on this and you've really considered it from multiple angles and you have something to say about it rather than, I saw a light in the sky. So I think that makes it, this adds a greater depth to the story.
it's
Mhm.
an itch in your brain. You can't just let it go. You have to find out what was it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I ever, even as a kid, if I saw a Bigfoot or something, I think that would just kind of eat away at me my whole life. I would just I would need to explain to myself what that was. I would just have to know.
Well, yeah, and then you always say that when you see people that are obsessed with these kinds of things, and you're just like, ah, they're crazy or whatever. But like, it would make you crazy if you saw something that nobody believed or that nobody saw with you or something, and you're just like, I have to explain this so that I can prove, something.
Yeah.
Not only that, but because it becomes a significant part of your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
Because your regular 9 to 5, you work and you do your best to contribute to society, and you eat and you shower and you go to bed and you wake up with the notion that what you know it's out there, and what you don't know you haven't experienced. And
Yeah.
then you experience something that's completely outside of that. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
What did just happen? It shakes the nature of your reality to the degree where you need to find out.
Yeah. I always found that, my world view is safe. This is the way the world is. And, I've gone a long time like that, but I don't have any kids. But if I did, and say one of them was possessed and they had to get an exorcism, all of a sudden my worldview would be shattered. It would just, the things I used to believe don't make sense anymore. And it's like, how do you go to work in the morning after dealing with that? You got to go and pay your taxes and live your life knowing that there's demons out there that are,
Yeah.
it's just, it's so weird. Whereas now it's like that's stuff of movies, and I'm kind of dipping my toe in it with this podcast, and I've heard the stories and stuff, but I can always, part of me, I don't say I don't quite believe it, but I almost, it doesn't affect me. It's something that's out there, but it's not something I have to deal with in my life. But as soon as it happened to me, my worldview is different, and I would either have to go insane and lock myself away, or just learn to
Yeah.
deal with it, because you gotta you gotta pay the rent, you gotta live life and be a normal person. So you can't. It's it's something that, yeah, just like you said, I'm not sure how people deal with that, and I guess until I do, I don't know.
Mhm.
The thing is, you have to consider that there's professionals that deal with this. Think of the Catholic Church and the fact that there is a training program with cost associated, that they train priests on exorcism. So I would like to think that the Catholic Church it has systems. It had thousands of years to get things right and to make things work in the best possible way. And even though some of those systems are archaic, I'm sure that the Catholic Church wouldn't be just throwing money like crazy at something that they wouldn't find pragmatic at this point. And I actually know one of my ex-co-workers, her brother was in seminary taking his exorcism training. And then all of the films and novels that are based on accounts of priests, affected families, of people that, okay, the law, courts that have had to deal with people that are strong believers in the ritual and process of exorcism. You can't just chalk that as, oh, it's just hearsay or misinterpretation of mental health issues. There's something in there, something deeper that it's so unexplained. And hey, we understand so little of the depth of our psyche and our brain neurology, and we understand so little about what's in the deep water. We know more about what's on the moon than on the base of the oceans, right? So the depth of knowledge about so many things, we still have so much to learn. But in the meantime, we're trying to cope with those realities, right? So exorcism, deep ocean and deep space exploration, we're just trying to cope with those small pieces that affect our reality, and we need to give it some kind of explanation and say, I understand this even a little bit. That's what makes this type of conversation very interesting. Even though you and Elizabeth haven't experienced something that breaks your concept of reality a little bit, but you're super curious about the notion because people you love, people you trust that have experienced that, and you're thinking, man, there's something to this.
Well, I think on that note is the perfect time to end this episode, unfortunately, but we got to try to stick to our schedule. That was an amazing conversation, Jin. We're probably going to have to split that one onto 2 episodes. So episode 3 and 4 will be the Jin conversation. And maybe at some point in the future, we can have you back on if maybe if you have another experience. I know there's other things you've talked to us about that we didn't get to, so we can talk about your other experiences and yeah. And do you have anything coming up in terms of film work or anything, or is it kind of slow because of COVID?
It's a bit slow because of COVID. I have to be honest, usually by this time of the year, I have at least February, March, April, and May mostly booked. I have zilch. A complete zero for next year. And to be honest, that's okay. I'm excited to be on set when I can. I don't feel that the indie industry has things right in terms of COVID control. So until that is in place, I'm not exactly sure I would feel all right to be on set or to be the grumpy grandpa telling everybody, don't pull your mask below your nose.
Yeah.
I
Keep the
know.
individual meal there. Let's keep 6 feet apart. I don't think I could do that. And I think somebody needs to be on all sets. If you want to start the films rolling again, whether they're indie or not, I mean, anybody who's passionate about a project, do you want your project to shut down because somebody tested positive for COVID and now you're afraid you're going to give COVID to your best part, like your living partner? You don't want that.
No.
And I don't think we are at the place where everybody's taking all the necessary precautions. One of my good friends, Chingiz Javeri, was on a set where everybody else was from Winona Earp. And that crew was perfect, flawless, 100% mask, 100% disinfectant, 100% distance. So I see unionized sets have things right. Indie sets, we're not there yet.
Yeah, it's
Awful.
hard. We Elizabeth and I were working on Grotesque, the new feature we're shooting. Elizabeth starred in, and yeah, we shot one day, and then COVID. It started in. This is before the lockdown happened again, but it just started interfering with plans. It was just getting in the way, and eventually we're just like, you know what? And of course, it's getting towards winter at that point, and then the movie takes place in kind of summer fall. And we just made a decision, you know what, let's shut it down. There's part of it that we have to wait till May to shoot a big chunk of the movie anyway. It's like, let's just wait till May and then we'll resume then. Hopefully by that point, things will be a lot better. I don't know if COVID will be over, but
Oh.
hopefully it'll just be safer, and we'll just be in a better place than we are now.
Yeah.
So we just kind of it's like, you know what, I'm not shooting anything till that time, which is I think the longest I've gone without shooting anything since I began filmmaking. So
It's a good choice, though. Julie Whelan invited me to be a homeless man next to a
oh right, yeah, I
disposal
remember that.
bin, and that was pretty much the week or 2 weeks before or after we opened the lockdown ended. And I was thinking, I would love to, but literally, if I travel from Calgary to Edmonton, I'm either bringing disease there and bringing it back. And the schedule didn't align either because that weekend I was booked. But because I really miss working with you guys. I've only worked with you guys twice, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, I really wanted to go, but then I spoke with my partner and she said, "Hey, Jin, you know what? You speak all about protecting other people from COVID and doing safe practices. I don't think you should go." And I decided to decline the role. I really hope you guys get rolling again on it, and you shoot a very ambitious project. I mean, the way you shot Hotbox was very unique because you had one location and you can shoot it in one chunk of certain amount of days. Shooting a feature like that, it's a dream to do it in one location, continuous shoot. And it's a nightmare to shoot throughout years, literally, for one feature film. And it seems that you've been forced to do that with Grotesque, but it will pay off. I know you guys have put so much effort into it. It will pay off.
It's such a good project. Everyone's so excited about it, and that's part of what hurt the most. Is like we were so gung ho about getting it going, and then it kind of just fell apart through no fault of our own. But I don't want to be working on a set where people are afraid. It's not a fun thing, and so I think just putting it off until hopefully in May, vaccines are out more, and it's not such an imminent danger to people.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's been other movies they shot over multiple years if necessary. So I think if we work at it, it'll come together and it'll be well worth it when it's done. And
Look
we'll
at
probably be
Bagman
glad
Rising. Look at Bagman Rising. It's shooting in Edmonton, and they've been shooting for the last 2 years, I think.
Holy cow.
And they'll be shooting next year too. It's a heavy action-packed flick. I think their best thing they have, which you also have a little bit, is the fact that the main character and most of the supporting characters are wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So time lapsing. I'm not saying that you're gonna age a lot, Elizabeth, in the next year. But if you have to pick up in 10 years to do reshoots because this project got sidetracked because I don't know, you were hired by CBC to do a series of documentaries. I don't know. Then 10 years after you pick up, you have makeup and a mask, and you're ready to go.
There you go. You got this all planned out, Jen.
Well,
All right.
I had planned to be part of it.
Perhaps.
Jen, well, thanks so much for being on the show. We'll hope to have you back soon, and one day we'll get to working with you again. And
absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Both of you guys are awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Paranormal Phenomena Podcast. See you next time.